Enfold Proactive Health Trust, Creating Safe Spaces, presents Demystifying Sexuality, a video series. How to talk with children about personal safety. Presented by Aarti Ahuja, Senior Facilitator, Enfold Proactive Health Trust.
Shh! This is what our children hear when they muster up the courage to share about an inappropriate touch or ask us about anything to do with sexuality. We usually end up doing two things. Either we don't believe them, tell them they are lying, blame or shame them, or two, we silence them as we are worried about family's honor. But by doing this, we are failing to create a safe space for our children. We are failing to teach our children about consent culture. Even if some of us are open to listening to them, how confident are we in supporting them? Child sexual abuse is an invisible crime that can have devastating effects on our children. The high incidence of abuse against children is alarming. So how can we support children in recognizing and reporting sexual abuse? Personal safety education is yet become as commonplace and easy as teaching road safety. The difficulty is linked to our discomfort with the topic of sexuality. Children questions like, why does a daddy doesn't have breast? Why can't I kiss you on your lips? Or even serious questions like, what is rape? Make us feel awkward and uncomfortable. We struggle to find age-appropriate words to answer these questions. We either avoid these discussions or we keep it to bare minimum, like good touch or bad touch. Such responses dilute the seriousness of the topic and fail to address the underlying issue of discomfort with sexuality and the shame and stigma attached to it. Research shows that personal safety education enhances child safety in the following ways. It empowers children by giving them age-appropriate information, skills, and the confidence to say no for their safety and the feeling that they are worthy of respect. It teaches children that their body belongs only to them and nobody has the right to touch them in a way they don't like it or that is unsafe. It teaches assertive skills to speak up for one's right without violating the rights of the other. And lastly, it encourages children to identify their safety net, their safe adults. So now the question is, when should we begin? At puberty? Or when the child begins school? Well, personal safety education is an ongoing discussion that begins from infancy and continues into adulthood. It is linked with sexuality education and neither one should wait till puberty. Children too are sexual beings. Here is how we can enmesh personal safety education and sexuality education right from the beginning. Touching genitals is pleasurable and toddlers rub and explore their genitals. This behavior shouldn't be shamed and is best ignored. Be mindful of your facial expressions, tone of voice, and the words you're using when bathing or cleaning the child to ensure the child feels safe and comfortable. Instead of saying words eeks, it is better to say, oh, you have passed urine or stool? Come, let me wash you. So with the age groups from 2 to 5 years old, children continue exploration of their genitals and are curious about other bodies too. They have questions about genitals, breast, pregnancy. They imitate adult sociosexual behavior like kissing or maybe lying on top of each other. That is a part of their learning by observation and imitation. So we begin by naming all the body parts and their function in simple words. So while helping the child bathe, you can say, wash your face, chest, susu place and potty place, legs and feet. And if you're comfortable, use anatomical names in your language, what you speak with the child. For example, genitals, penis, scrotum, vulva and buttocks. It shows that you're willing to talk about these parts of the body. When we don't name these parts, the child senses that we don't wish to talk about these parts. Avoid calling the genitals chi-chi, shame, shame, a word that means dirt. Such associations come in the way of children respecting their body and fully accepting their sexuality as they grow up. Avoid euphemism like flower or parrot. A parent has done this, and when the child reported abuse, the adult couldn't understand what the child was saying and brushed it aside. So it's important to teach children personal safety rules. So the first rule is teach the clothing rule. So we keep certain parts of our body covered, our private parts like anus, buttocks, chest, genitals in front of others. Even when we go swimming, we keep these parts covered. If a child runs naked into a gathering, you can say, please go wear your underpants instead of saying shame, shame. If the child is pulling someone's pants down, you could stop the child and say, remember the clothing rule? We don't pull off other children's or other people's clothes. So the second rule is the touching rule. We don't touch our private parts in front of others. No one should touch our private parts either. They may touch only if we need help or we are sick. As soon as possible, ask the child to clean their own genitals. A touch can feel pleasurable even if it is unsafe. Appropriate interaction needs to be demonstrated and reinforced. For example, if the family is watching a TV program and the child's hand is inside the pant, you can distract the child and later take the child aside and say, you were so absorbed in watching the program that you didn't realize where your hand was, and reiterate the touching rule. Socio-sexual play is an important part of sexual development of children. It helps to form the sexual brain map of the child. In the beginning, the child explores their body and later even explore the body of their peers. We can ignore this play. Such play is spontaneous. Children don't plan it. It is done in a sense of fun and curiosity. There is no anger, force or fear. Children don't hurt each other either. If such feeling appear in a child, does this in spite of another child feeling the pain, then it would be concerning sexual behavior. Possibility of the child facing sexual abuse would have to be looked into. To the older children around 6 to 9 years of age, explain how our body is our own and we can take care of it, and that we follow these rules for everyone's safety. How we do not touch people in a way that make them feel uncomfortable, scared or sad or confused. Avoid saying, don't let anyone touch you there. This is not in the child's hand. Say, we don't touch others in an unsafe way, and neither should they. So the third rule is the talking rule. Supposing a child calls out in public, Daddy, is your pant zipped up? You can tell the child, we talk about private parts with people who help us take care of ourselves, like parents, doctors. We don't talk or draw attention to these parts in front of others. We can also discuss exception to these rules, discuss accidental, unsafe touches and how people generally say sorry and do not repeat it. Also explain that our mouth is private too. Though we don't cover it, this is because a lot of sexual abuse of children happens using the child's mouth. So after doing the body safety rules, we teach the children the personal safety guidelines of know, go and tell. So teach concepts of boundaries and set rules about behaviors that are acceptable and not acceptable. And explain them these rules are being placed for our safety. Example, don't tickle the child if the child says no. Or even before we take any person's belonging, we do ask for permission. We take it only if they say yes. Explain that if someone makes us feel unsafe or uncomfortable about anything, including their bodies, they can say no or indicate it in their body language, if they can. So as adults, we know how it is not always easy to say no to an older person, more powerful person whom you know. So don't insist that the child must say no. Saying no or stopping the abuse should not come across as the responsibility of the child or, for that matter, any victim of any age. So the second guideline is go. So explain that they can go away from the unsafe person as and when they can. The safer thing is to escape from the situation rather than trying to fight it. So in the personal safety guideline, the third one is tell. So they can tell a safe person about this person as and when they can. Telling may not be easy as the person doing the unsafe behavior could be a person known to them. Most sexual abusers are known to the child and not strangers. Repeat that there is no shame in talking about it and it wasn't their fault. Telling safe adults about it can keep them and other children safe when trusted adults take the effort to stop the unsafe person. Sometimes people they tell may not pay attention. They can go on telling until someone listens and take action to support them. Explain that it is never too late to tell. They can always come and tell you that you will believe them, won't scold them or blame them for it, and that you will do all that you can to keep them safe. So who are these safe adults? Should we name them for the child? No, because sexual abuse is done in private. So you won't know who is behaving in an unsafe manner, but the child will know. Don't say, beware of the strangers. They are unsafe. Most abusers are known people. Explain that the people who follow rules are safe adults and people who don't follow rules are unsafe adults. Help them think and arrive at who will form a part of their safety network. So let us now think of some conversation starters with the children. Like, what if while you were playing in the park, someone came up to you and wanted to play with you, or wanted to drop you back home, or you are being coached to play a sport and you feel uncomfortable with the way the coach touches you or talk to you. Let the child think through these different scenarios. Now we will answer some of the children's question, but here we always follow an open style of communication and answer these questions in a simple and a scientific language and as and when the child asks. Don't tell the child, I will tell you when you grow up. Being age appropriate means using words that the child understands. So if the child asks, how did the baby go inside of the tummy? You could say, mother's body has a baby house. The baby grows in it. When it is big enough, it comes out of the baby passage. Where is this? The next question the child might ask. Near the susu place in the mother's body, or you could use the scientific words. Next, they might ask you as to how did the baby go inside the mama? You can say, our bodies are made up of cells. A baby is made when a father's baby cell joins the mother's baby cell, and when mommy and daddy wants to make a baby, they come very close to each other. While watching a movie, if a scene depicting intimate sexual acts begin, we often tend to switch off the channel. Instead, we could explain what is being shown here is something that adults do when they love and care for each other. But they do it in private. When such private acts are shown like this in a movie that all of us can see together, it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. I'm switching off the screen for some time. This helps the children understand your values and sexuality etiquettes. They understand that they too can talk to you about these things that make them uncomfortable. Sometimes some serious questions are asked, like what is rape? You could say, when big people love and care for each other, they often touch and come very close to each other. But if someone does this by force and the other person doesn't want to, it is called as rape. And it is a crime. If you see a sexual behavior in a child that is not expected of their age and development, ask more open-ended questions to determine why they are doing this and if there could be a possibility of a sexual abuse, rather than condemning the behavior or scolding them for it. You could ask in a neutral tone, how come you are doing this? Or, have you seen someone do this? In general, model respect and appreciation of similarities and differences in sexual and gender diversity. Avoid labeling the child or people as girly or tomboy. Help children develop a healthy and a more positive body image. Avoid saying, don't go out and play in the sun, it'll make you dark, or how come you are so short? Instead, focus on health and well-being and avoid comparing their bodies with others. This is because self-confidence and a positive body image makes it easier for children to respect their bodies, be assertive, and report unsafe behavior. To begin this, I would like to start with a story. I belong to a well-educated family. My parents and teachers were supported me to achieve academic excellence to become an engineer and an MBA. But my sex education came from a friend who was my age when I was 15 years old. I don't remember specifically what she told me, but I could never relate to it. I thought my parents and elders were involved in such gross activities. For a few days, I could not even look into their eyes. When it comes to talking to a teenager about sex and sexuality, they want to know a lot more overlapping information. And some of their doubts we can't even imagine. As a part of a sex education curriculum, we ask teenagers to put their question on a piece of paper anonymously, and we answer the same. The most common question we get around 12 to 16 years are about penis size. Does penis size matter for sexual pleasures? What is the importance of sexual behavior and how long do you do it for? Certain questions are very specific like this. How long does an erection last for? Or is it immoral for females to masturbate? Certain questions like what is orgasm and how do you have one? How much masturbation is too much masturbation? And many more. And every now and then we would hear a story like, ma'am, I heard that my friend didn't masturbate for a year and the testicle exploded. Yes, it is sounding funny. We also get questions on how to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Boys sometimes tend to think that if a girl smiles at them, she's in love with them or even interested to have sex. Where is this information coming from? Parents and teachers often shy away from this topic. So their peers and internet becomes their teacher of sexuality. Wouldn't it be better if we educate our adolescents about these changes and supported them in learning how to manage their emotions responsibly and not let them wade through misleading informations? We are living in a world where we are using shame as a shield, and it's not working. It is instilled within us to feel shame, guilt, and embarrassment around one thing which we are biologically programmed to enjoy. By talking about sexual violence in an unbalanced way, stigmatizing the victim, finding faults with them, or going to some other extreme, all men are like that, only men cannot be trusted, we are leaving the girls more afraid and boys feeling more indicted. We need to be more transparent, honest, non-judgmental, and vulnerable. First and foremost, we can encourage body autonomy. We can support our adolescents in voicing their views and feelings, to unapologetically own their no and enthusiastically declare their yes when it comes to how they want their body to be treated. We can stop giving them mixed messages like their body belongs to them and at the same time tell them to hold hands in an activity in school. We need to be consistent. For example, if a teenager refuses to hug an adult, we need to respect their opinions. Or if a teenager refuses to keep the door of their room open, respect it and maybe create a rule of knocking at each other's door before entering. We can be advocates for comprehensive sexual education. That means acknowledging and accepting that children, adolescents, and adults are sexual beings, giving information and having discussions on pubertal changes, discussing the diversity in gender identity and sexual orientation and their expression, giving information about sex, birth control, contraceptions, STIs and STDs, and discussing about choices, responsibility, and consequences, including the law around it. Would like to end my talk with a quote by Nelson Mandela. We owe our children, the most vulnerable citizen in our society, a life free of violence and fear. So let us all join hands to create a safer and a healthier environment for our children.
This video is part of a series of videos and learning content aimed at addressing gender-based violence. These videos provide practitioner perspectives by professionals and experts in the field. We hope these videos generate further discussions with peers, family members and teachers, encourage curiosity and seed further research ideas in these domains. We gratefully acknowledge the following for their support: Gaurav Krishna, Keshav Rajendran, Ishwar Shankar, Mohan Ram, Clockwork Captions, Enfold Consultants, Ford Foundation. The copyright and other intellectual property rights in respect of this video belong exclusively to Enfold Proactive Health Trust, Enfold. Enfold licenses this video under the terms of Creative Commons License CC BY-NC-ND 4.0. The details of which can be found at https://creativcommonslicense.org/licenses/by-NC-ND/4.0/. Any use or reproduction of this video contrary to or in violation of the terms of the aforesaid Creative Commons license will be illegal, and Enfold reserves the right to take suitable action in respect thereof. Enfold also reserves the right to modify, terminate or revoke the license granted as aforesaid, or otherwise exercise any and all rights in respect of its intellectual property without further notice, and the same shall be binding on the licensee or user or reader thereof. June 2021. Enfold Proactive Health Trust. www.enfoldindia.org. Contact info@enfoldindia.org +91 99 000 94251 www.enfoldindia.org.